Okay, hi Thea.
Hi.
So we are recording this evening for the first time in the evening, and you are also recording from the road. So
This is true.
we'll see how the signal works. So this conversation, we want to follow on last week's. Last week's we called Claiming Our Authority. We were discussing the idea of, we were discussing the fact that it seems we're living in a culture in which people seem to trust outside authority over their own.
Mm-hmm.
And we think that's a problem. We think that people need to get more in touch with their own inner compass, inner guide, inner voice than they are right now. And that's not to say we don't value the advice of trusted friends, family, therapists, or whatever when we need perspective and help. But there seems to be a pattern, a trend toward looking to experts for almost everything these days.
Handing over one's own authority,
Yeah.
one's own self-responsibility towards another figure.
Yes, yes. And as we discussed this, we linked it to this, to the fact that image is such a predominant theme in our world. Image over essence. You have used this, you've articulated this a lot. And the artifice and pretense at work in our world. And we determined that the direction we need to go in to help people reclaim or claim their authority is to recognize image and the value of image, the value of image as a model sometimes for something to aspire to, but and to imitate, perhaps. You had discussed, you had used as an example your teacher. You know, who do you sound like at first when you're trying things out? You sound like your teacher until you make it your own. But it seems as if we've gotten stuck in the image and imitation and not moved beyond it to the essence.
Right.
And it then led us to an off-camera discussion about, maybe just little steps like, we're makeup free, gray hair, not a lot of pretense here, I think. And you hilariously made the joke back to me saying, I'll raise you one gap tooth. And we realized that's the starting point of this next one. We need to talk about this. We need to talk about your gap tooth how you came to terms with your gap tooth and the process you went through when you suddenly had a gap tooth as a grown woman.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll make this real quick. So this gap tooth is made by orthodontia, essentially. Misdirected, well-intentioned parents following directions of an orthodontist. And so I had a fake tooth for many years that never felt comfortable. And because of the way the orthodontia experience went, had created a crooked tooth in my mouth. They had made my front tooth crooked, which had actually given me headaches for years, which led me towards different healing modalities to heal myself when I was young. So, I learned a lot. And then at one point, I guess I must have been in my 30s, and my fake tooth that was glued into my mouth had fallen out for a weekend when I was traveling in Indiana, where we're from. And I was like, darn, here I am. And it was out for a few days, and I felt extremely vulnerable and insecure. at first.
Exposed.
Very
right?
exposed.
Mm-hmm.
But in those couple days, because this tooth had been yanked to the side and was crooked and had been creating pressure in my skull, I started to feel this deep release through my whole being, not having the fake tooth in there. And so I knew that I needed to take it out.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't quite ready. I was going to take a little bit of the pain for my vanity or something for a little bit, but I had sort of given myself a time frame. And so from that point, I think it was about a year later, and I took it out because I had been sort of just working with envisioning myself with a gap tooth so that my tooth could relax. And, you know, I happen to work with children and I play games, as has come up many times. So I took it out, and my first day back at school, you know, I was a pirate playing a pirate game. So just arg. And I really kind of stepped into it and took it on and became really open. And it literally has changed my life.
Right.
I was in a relationship that was not super positive or healthy. And the person I had been in this relationship with had even remarked, "You have not been the same since you took out your tooth." And so that has given me this journey to myself.
All right. We'll see how this signal goes. The signal's coming in and out. So you were saying, so this relationship that you were in at the time.
This relationship that I had been in for many years with a fake tooth in my mouth, this person had remarked that once I took it out, and life, you know, I was changing and claiming more of myself and my right to be and to right to be.
Your authority.
My authority.
I mean, your authority.
Yeah. And, you know, this person had remarked that I had never been the same since I took my fake tooth out, which, you know, had freed me from some idea of how I was to be. And I do remember, I mean, I was definitely feeling vulnerable and exposed with it for a period of time in the beginning. And I remember probably remarking to you, or at least to myself, that this is kind of like, this lets me know who someone is right away. If this is something that stops someone's way of relating to me, I'm not interested.
Right.
You know,
right. It kind of calls the herd pretty right off the bat, right? Yeah. I mean, that to me, I mean, so many people would have gotten work done to mask
a
gap in your tooth right there, right?
Yeah.
And to go through that process and be uncomfortable over and over, meeting the world, you know?
Yeah.
That is a that's growing, right? That's growing, and that's so freeing to get through that.
Yeah.
And come out the other side, right? And well, that leads me to talk about what we have been talking about a little bit, and I just wrote a little article about it too. But the topic of cosmetic work or Botox injections or whatever has come up in my circle of folks, of women too. And then you and I talked a little bit about that. Where I'm trying to get my head around that idea of being taking measures, which is essentially injecting poison into your face to
paralyze
the facial muscles so that they don't move, so it doesn't form wrinkles, so that we look younger than we normally would look, right? And
young, I mean, can I say younger? I mean, that's not
that we look less wrinkly than we otherwise would, right?
Yeah.
And I touched on the fact that I think there's a problem with that. And I acknowledge that, I've always been content with the way I look. So, I'm grateful for that, so
Yeah.
I understand I haven't walked in everyone's shoes. But I like my gray hair. I like these crow's feet. I like these lines. These lines represent my
life,
my experience, my
yeah,
like I put it, my legitimacy.
yeah,
It is who I am, and I bring that to the table, right? So, this obsession with looking other than we are is something that I think is getting people stuck in, it's not just, that follows that we get stuck otherwise as well, right? If we're perpetually seeking to look different, be different, look different, and
well,
look
actually making this body stuck. It's actually, that's what it's doing, is making it stop. Right?
It's making it stop.
And that is the
right.
opposite
of growth
that's
and
not,
flow.
Yeah, that's not what
right?
we are here to do or to be.
Well, and honestly, the way I look at it is kind of like, we've got a life and then we've got death, right? So I've always looked at it as if our lives and the way we live our lives prepare us for that next very beyond unknown adventure, whatever that is. If we get stuck holding on to something and not moving past it, whether it's image or other, then I would imagine it's going to make that stepping through that next doorway a lot more challenging. Right?
Yes. Right.
So, and we've gotten a bit off track here.
We have a little bit, but so maybe we'll just find where we're going, and if it's not, it's not. But what that makes me think of a little bit is, really in this aging, you're saying this is who I am. This isn't who you are. I know that's not what you mean, like you aren't your lines, but this is the story of your life that you've carried, right? And really, it seems like as we age, the idea is to be able to drop this more easily.
Yes.
This whole thing.
Yes.
And instead, people are going to the gesture of grabbing it and holding on to it while they decompose,
Yeah, it's holding on to the artifice.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Holding on to artifice. So, I'll share a little story too. And I wrote about this as well, but I look at womanhood in basically the three archetypal stages: maiden, mother, crone. And I feel I'm in the mother stage right now. I am. I'm mothering. My kids are halfway there, I'd say. And I remember right before I embarked on this journey of starting a family and having these children, I was sitting with a filmmaker who liked to just randomly just take pictures as you're sitting there. And I knew how to take pictures quite well, and I knew how to pose. And in that moment, I made this conscious decision as he pulled the camera up to not pose, to just look straight at it, because I realized I was walking through a doorway as I was embarking on this new life. And I was no longer the maiden. I was no longer I wasn't the ingenue, right? I was owning my my entrance into the next stage of motherhood, womanhood. And that was very significant to me. But it was a conscious decision, conscious choice, right? So as I also had mentioned in this article, you know, there's a place for each stage. We need the maidens and those with their fertile, supple bodies. But what comes with that is also a naivete and a hopeful naivete, which serves us very well and serves the world very well. But that also needs to be tempered by the mother, that next stage of woman who has experienced and who has honed her purpose and brings her experience to the table as well. We need her as well. And we also need the crone in her wisdom, in her deep wisdom of life's experience, having gone through maidenhood, through motherhood, and now and grandparenthood, and even beyond, because our perspective changes greatly as we move through life. But if we've got a bunch of, we've got the maidens sitting at the table, the women trying to look like maidens sitting at the table, and the crones also looking like maidens, something's off whack, and we're not going to move forward, right?
Yikes.
So, I guess let's wrap it up by just, concluding that there is such a liberation in shedding that one stage.
Yeah.
And that identity, right? I'm not the pretty young thing anymore. Right?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, sure. Yes. Pretty young. I don't know. You were very pretty. And I think getting prettier, is the other thing. There's something to a person inhabiting themselves more fully and completely that is breathtaking.
Yes.
So that's the thing. I mean, I think what I would want to take us to a discussion next time is, what is it we really find appealing and attractive in people, in our friends, in our lovers? What is it? Because it's not the lack of wrinkles.
Right.
Because wrinkles and gray hair can be just the sexiest, most delightful thing ever, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
So why? What is it we're holding on to there? What is it that we are in a culture still trying to hold in our hands, and we name it as smooth skin? Like, what is that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What is that?
Is it hopefulness? Is it that's actually what's being lost? And so holding on to the image of what we were when we were hopeful, there's a whole lot in there.
Yeah. And also to explore who is driving this too, in a way, like, and we talk a lot about female empowerment, but this is anything but, right? So are we mistakenly seeking something that is not even that which is something to aspire to, even on a superficial level, right?
Right.
Are women doing this for men? Are men doing this for women? I know some women will talk about the fact that it will up their confidence to look better, to look more youthful, and that aids them in all areas of life. But that still comes from some original impulse, that youthful look is something that is so highly valued, even when you are almost 49 years old or whatever it is, right?
Right.
Or 70 years old.
It's so hard for me to really grasp that I just keep thinking that it's actually, we're grasping after a feeling rather than a looking, right?
Yes, right. I think you're right.
And that's where the image part is what we can look at in a picture and see ourselves when we were young and didn't have wrinkles, and remember the state of mind maybe, or the state of feeling that we were in. And that's what we're reaching for, rather than actually the skin. I don't know.
No, you got it. It's the tangible. It's something that we can grab, basically. So perhaps this, it goes much deeper than that, but the only way we can quantify it,
manifest
materialize it, is with Botox or facelifts or something.
The only way we think we can. Yeah.
Right. So next time we'll talk about that. We'll see how this one turns out with all your frames.
Stuttering.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, hey, it is what it is. We roll with it, right? It's all about the substance and not the image. All right. Let me end the recording. Thank you for doing this. Hold on.
Thank you. Thanks for all of it.